everyone, I'm Don Pratt, host of a show where we give you a perspective of police in your community. Welcome to Policing York Region. We're sitting with Detective Sergeant Sony Desange from the Organized Crime Bureau of York Regional Police, and we're going to be talking about fentanyl. It's a drug that it has a lot of dangers, and it's been going across Canada. Sony, welcome on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much for being here. And this is, as I'm learning, it's such a dangerous drug.
It is. Many concerns with it.
So can you tell us a bit about, well, first what is fentanyl?
It's a synthetic opioid that's about 100 times more potent than morphine.
100 times more?
Yes. And its primary use is for severe chronic pain. For example,
okay, so it has a prescription use?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's severe chronic pain, and for some, an example would be for like cancer patients.
Okay. Okay, so obviously now it's being obtained illegally.
Yes.
And so how's that happening? I'm not quite sure I understand. Like, I hear about fentanyl patches. What?
So with fentanyl patches, they are legitimately prescribed by medical professionals. The illegal use comes into play when traffickers are obtaining these patches and then selling them to people that are addicted to opioids.
Okay, and this is an addiction. This isn't just a one-off, like somebody's just trying it. This is an addiction.
It usually starts off from a one-off trying, but then it gradually becomes an addiction.
So through some of the discussion that we've had, it seemed to have been a trend that started off in Western Canada?
Western Canada, they're dealing with the powdered fentanyl. In Ontario specifically, or the York region specifically, our issues have been with patches. We have not come across significant amounts of powdered substance, illegal fentanyl. It's been more patches on our end. Right.
So I'm taking it that somebody is getting a legitimate prescription. How is that being obtained to get into the illegal market?
Well, if someone's getting a legal prescription, they can be handing that off to traffickers and selling it to them, who are then selling it in the illegal market.
Okay, so there must be an attraction then to the criminal side of it. I mean, is it profit?
It is profit. I mean, patches, a little while back, were selling from anywhere from $200 to $250 a patch.
Per patch? Per patch.
And if you're going up further north where there's not as much, and the demand is there, you could be going anywhere from $300 to $400 per patch.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, and you're also getting traffickers that are taking the patches and cutting them into further pieces and selling them in different, separate, slit up pieces.
So they're maximizing their
profit,
their yield on one patch.
Yeah.
Right. So you've talked about the patches, but the powder. Where does the powder come from?
The powder is primarily coming from the west side, from the Vancouver, Calgary side. Okay. And it's being shipped in from Asia. Produced in Asia, shipped in from Asia.
Okay, so it's not actually available for sale?
No.
In Canada?
No, it's illegal.
It is illegal?
Yes.
And so what are they doing with this powder when it gets here?
When the cost of a kilo of fentanyl goes from anywhere from $12,500 to $15,000. So when the powder arrives, if you're going to take that powder and produce it yourself, you could technically make up to 1 million counterfeit either oxy pills or pills that are on demand out there.
Wow. So
each one of these pills costs anywhere from $20 to $40 depending on where you're selling the pill, and the profit value could be up to $20 to $40 million off of 1 kilo of fentanyl. Off of 1
kilo?
That's correct.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's why the rewards outweigh the risks for these traffickers.
Yeah, of course.
Because the profit value is there.
Yeah, I can't. It's hard to say why they wouldn't want to. Of course, I mean they've got a high yield. One of the big concerns, though, is as you were saying, when they're taking whether it's the powder or the patch, and they're turning it into something that can be used at street level. It's not like these are professionals that are measuring it out adequately.
No, and that's where the concern happens, is that when they're taking the actual powdered substance and mixing it in with, say, caffeine or other powdered substances, they're not quantifying the amount of fentanyl that's being mixed with these other substances.
So what's the purpose for mixing it with other substances, though?
You get more product out of it.
So they're just trying to stretch it out.
They're stretching it out.
Basically, they're watering it down.
Yeah, and again, if you were to have pure fentanyl like that as well too, you'd pretty much be killing everyone that you gave that dose to.
Wow.
Because 2 milligrams, which is literally 2 grains of salt, it could be a fatal overdose.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so traffickers should not want to start killing all their customers as well either.
No.
So they're trying to profit as much as they can by mixing it in with other substances.
It's hard to believe that something so powerful can be readily available. And you said that you're seeing it in our own region.
In our region, we're seeing more specifically the patches.
Right.
And the powdered substances are all out in the west. And we were fortunate enough to go to a conference out in Calgary that was fentanyl related. And in speaking with Calgary officers, they were saying they are not seeing patches at all. So it's the total opposite ends.
Okay.
So theirs is powder, ours is patches.
So I guess just in the region, that's what you're seeing.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing.
Right. And so public safety, what do we do, or what are we doing to keep people safe?
From a policing perspective, we've partnered up with our York Region Public Health, Addiction Services of York Region.
Okay.
We've got, we hosted a forum back in November 2016 for medical professionals, pharmacists, dentists, physicians.
And what was that?
It was solely based on the Patch for Patch program that came into effect, I believe, on October 1st, 2016. And now that it's become legislation, it was more of getting our community partners together to say, we're going to work on this together and get through it together, because everyone was sort of disengaged. Okay. And we had a panel.
So this was kind of bringing everyone on the same page.
Yes.
So, and you said Patch for Patch program. Can you kind of explain that a little bit?
Yeah, it's Patch for Patch is Bill C-33 or Bill 33 that's come into effect, which is when pharmacies are issuing patches to a patient.
Right.
There's a document with blank sections where the patch is supposed to be attached to. Right. So when you take, say, 10 patches out, you're supposed to bring 10 patches back in, and you'll get as many patches as you take. It's more of contrling the environment of these patches.
It's kind of controlling the inventory that's coming in and going out.
Exactly.
Right? And holding people accountable.
That, and then we know that there's less chances of that product getting into the wrong hands to be trafficked out.
Okay, fair enough. So you said you had health providers of different walks attend this.
Yeah, and we had on the panel, we had officers from the fraud unit, the hold-up squad, and drugs and vice unit, and that was more for the medical professionals to recognize that we're in this together with them.
Yes.
And that we're there for any kind of assistance, because there is going to be frauds, there is going to be an increase in potential holdups because of the demand for the product, right? And now it's
of course,
and it's become structured where it's not as easy to grab. Yeah. So there's more control over it. So it's going to bring the risk up for other criminal activity. Yeah,
and you mentioned some of the partnerships, and you've obviously formed some great ones. I mean, just in trying to put this show together, I had the opportunity of speaking to a couple of different doctors and getting their input. And you said from York Regional Health Services as well. I mean, it's a great collaboration of efforts, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're with the medical professionals, addiction services of York Region. We've taken that workshop group now, and we've formed a research group. So we're going to continue to monitor and come up with strategies with all the medical professionals and at the table to see what issues are coming into our region, and how can we proactively engage or come up with strategies or techniques to address these concerns.
Right, and that's some of what we're doing in York Region to...
Yeah. We're doing that continuously, and then, I mean, our main concern or message out there is that we're there to work in partnership with our communities.
Right.
And if you're coming across any information or you're coming into any concerns, to contact the Drugs and Vice Unit. And if you're not comfortable in doing so, you can always call Crime Stoppers, which is anonymous as well too.
Yeah, actually, Crime Stoppers. I just seen a media release from Crime Stoppers during the months of February and March. Any tips received leading to the arrest with anything to do with fentanyl, you get double the rewards. So Crime Stoppers is obviously on board with this as well.
Yeah, and it's a great program, and we do encourage people to contact us. I mean, we're only going to be able to conquer these kind of issues in working in partnerships with our communities. Yeah. The police alone cannot do this. This is a community concern.
Yeah, of course. Like with many other things. I mean, if you don't see it, if you're not attuned to it, if it's not brought to you, then how can you do anything about it, right? So it's back to the old thing about any topic.
Yeah.
If you see illegal activity, you have to report it.
Exactly.
Right. And this is all what falls under the mandate of the Organized Crime Bureau?
Yeah, it's the Organized Crime Bureau Drugs and Vice Unit.
Okay, and that's made up of?
We've got members. We've got 6 enforcement teams. Mm-hmm. Each team specializes in different categories as well too. Clandestine labs, grow of marijuana labs. So we specialize in everything. The officers are trained in multiple things.
So you cover all over the map.
Yeah, we cover all the York region.
Thanks very much for being here, Sony.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be right back after this.
Hi, I'm Constable Ian Aho of the York Regional Police Marine Unit. Georgina is a very popular place for people to go out on the ice and go ice fishing, snowmobiling, ATVing, and we don't discourage that at all. We encourage people to go out, but we do ask that you check with local ice hut operators to make sure the ice is safe. And if you do decide to go out on the ice, in the event that you fall through, you should have flotation devices or a flotation suit. You should carry ice picks with you, and if you do go through, kick hard and try to crawl back up onto the good solid ice. The best thing I can suggest, if you are going to go out on the lake, let somebody know and be prepared to fall through and be able to get yourself out.
Welcome back, everyone, and thanks for that message from York Regional Police. I've got the opportunity of sitting down with Joanne Riom, who is the owner and pharmacist of the Shoppers Drug Mart in Keswick. Joanne, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And yeah, so we were looking for some the medical piece of this drug that we're talking about, fentanyl. The more I learn about it, the scarier I find it is.
Well, it can be a scary medicine, I guess, but it also is very valuable. So, of course...
So talk about the values of it then. Why do we have fentanyl?
So basically, fentanyl is a long-acting opioid. So it's really, really good for chronic pain.
So when you use the term opioid, sorry.
So opioid is a type of a narcotic. So codeines, morphines, anything that really is a great pain reliever. And we have several people in our communities that have health care needs that need pain relief. So it's good because it does last for 3 days, and it's a sustained release, long-acting, so people aren't having to manage pain continuously. It's kind of taken care of for them over the long.
Right. So this is where you're talking about the slow release. It stays in your system.
Right.
They're keeping more of a comfort level from the constant.
Exactly. And I mean, we all have loved ones that we don't want to be suffering when they're dealing with this sort of thing.
Well, I mean, in years past, we've always heard morphine. It was a very common term, I'm sure a commonly used drug. But as Sony, he was on just a little while ago, he was saying that fentanyl is how much times stronger than morphine?
It's 10 times stronger. So yeah, so it's quite a bit stronger. So it's very useful. So we're using it in much lower doses, which is very useful. And it's just that long-acting piece that's really great about fentanyl. So we still do use morphines. That's still used. We're using that still for a lot of people's pain relief. But this just becomes one that's just easy to manage as you put the patch on and you don't have to deal with pain that comes up and down throughout the day.
Right. So that's the positive side of fentanyl. And unfortunately, we're looking at the not so positive side.
That's right.
So Sony was talking about some of the criminalities of it, and of course, there's profits and what have you to be made from it. So what are they doing with this drug? You're providing a patch to your clientele.
Yes.
What are these criminals? What are they doing with it?
Well, they're selling it, and after the person that gets it decides to use it, I guess, criminally, they're using it, they're injecting it, they're vaporizing it, they're smoking it. So they're even putting it in their mouths. They're eating it, ingesting it any way, I guess, basically, that they can.
So they're finding a way to extract.
Exactly. So they're not using the whole patch, but the problem is, and the danger is that they're extracting portions of the patch, and they don't necessarily know exactly what they're getting from that.
No,
patch.
and how would they? They wouldn't know what's actually coming off of it,
So
right?
it's experimental for most of them, and they're not knowing exactly what they're getting, and they're trying to guess what the right dose is for what they want to get from it is.
Right. So the effects of this on people. I've heard about overdoses. I've heard about deaths.
Yeah. So unfortunately, there are quite a few deaths that are happening because that same thing I was just discussing is we don't know the right dose for every person. And when people aren't used to taking opioids or narcotics and they all of a sudden decide to take it, it's very dangerous. I mean, it stops breathing in the system, and people can overdose quite easily on it. So
That's a horribly scary topic.
it's very scary.
You brought a little kit with you. You started explaining it to me before the show.
Yeah.
So what is this about?
So naloxone is a kit
term is
that is
naloxone? Okay.
Or a rescue kit, we call it.
Okay.
Is basically an injection that is given to a person who is overdosing.
Oh.
Overdosing on opioids of any kind. So whether it's fentanyl, morphine, OxyContin, codeine, all those types of narcotics, they can basically, their life can be saved from something like this.
So is this for a healthcare provider?
So this is for anyone. This is for family members. This is for individuals that know that there are narcotics being used in their lives, whether it's legitimately, because sometimes there are overdoses when something is used legitimately.
We have a picture of signs of an overdose, and maybe you can speak to it, and I guess where this would come into play. So extremely small pupils.
Shivering, so someone might feel like they're just shaking. They do have discoloration of the mouth and the nails.
Okay.
Breathing slowed or absent. Choking, where they're coughing and they kind of will make a gurgling sound.
Right.
And basically, they cannot be woken up. And that's the key. The key is I can't wake up somebody who I know has taken narcotics, opioids, and now I can save their life, is basically.
Right. So first thing, call 911.
Call 911. And then basically, if you have one of these kits, and we do encourage them, the government of Ontario does provide them free of charge for anyone who visits a local pharmacy. They can ask for one, and there's no judgment. It's non-judgment based. So they just basically approach the pharmacist, ask for a kit, and they get one free of charge. There is training that happens with the pharmacist, one-on-one.
Okay.
And then basically they leave with a tool that can save a loved one or friend or family member, anybody's life.
So this has been happening in such a frequency that they've actually had to come up with a tool to provide for the public. So I mean, this is all stuff that we're just not familiar with.
That's right.
We hear about it on the news, but it's quite a prevalent issue.
It is, and it's happening more and more, unfortunately.
Right. And so other ways that maybe people are, Sonia was talking about the fentanyl patch. Do you see or have any insight to, he was talking about a powdered form?
Well, I wouldn't see a lot of that because there is no medical use for that. There's other drugs of abuse, obviously. There's oxycodone is another big one, so that's seen in Percocet, Oxycocet.
Right.
And so that's a highly abused opioid drug.
Okay.
So we see that a lot. We see prescriptions for that. It's actually quite highly prescribed.
Right.
So we see a lot of that. So that's probably one of the top ones for us. Fentanyl is also a drug of abuse, but I think doctors are prescribing it maybe a little bit more appropriately.
And they're tightening up the restrictions, right? I mean, we talked about like the patch for patch program.
That's right.
It seems like a fantastic tool.
It is, yes.
And I guess just in general, that piece of education and bringing healthcare providers on the same page.
Exactly.
In order to recognize that, hey, we do have a problem here.
Yeah.
Right? But so This had a predecessor.
Right.
What was that?
So before fentanyl became the drug of abuse, I
Right.
guess, or the one in the news, it was OxyContin.
Yes.
That was being used, and people were abusing that, and they were using it for different, I guess, illegal
Yeah.
uses. But basically, yes, OxyContin was the drug of choice at that point. And what happened was the makers, which were very responsible, and they saw a problem with it, is they changed the formulation. So it could no longer be abused. So it couldn't be injected anymore, and it couldn't be crushed and snorted or whatever else. So they stopped making it.
So they kind of made it tamper-proof.
They made it tamper-proof. So they came up with a new formulation called OxyNeo, and now that problem went away.
Okay.
So
you get rid of
unfortunately,
one.
yeah.
So I'm right in saying that fentanyl is not actually a new product.
No, it's been around for years.
It's been around. It's just become the one of choice because it's where they can extract
Exactly.
the most value
Exactly.
and sell it, right? And so is there other measures that we're taking to see that this doesn't get into the wrong hands?
So basically, the Patch for Patch program, there's another narcotic strategy that happened, which is when physicians are prescribing narcotics,
Okay.
they have to make sure that they're putting a valid healthcare number on the prescription. So that's kind of stopped, I guess, the forgeries of prescriptions. So the doctor has to write the person's health care, that they've actually checked their ID, and then the doctor also has to put their identification on the prescriptions. So that's another strategy that's been adopted and we enforce and look at.
Yeah, no, I can say, we have elderly parents, and from time to time we've had to go into the drugstore to pick up their stuff, and yeah, we have had to show ID and sign for certain medications. At the time, I guess I didn't really recognize why that was there.
Yeah.
But now that makes perfect sense, right? But there's also the element, this refers back more to what Sonny was referring to is the risks that it puts everyone at, because there is a value to it, and people are willing to steal and do anything to obtain the products, right?
Exactly.
We've seen everything from break-and enters to it's a high risk activity, right?
That's right.
Right. So what else do you see on your end then?
So one thing I just wanted to mention was the medication return program that we have at the pharmacies.
Right.
So sometimes you're legitimately prescribed, whether it be codeine, Tylenol number 3, whether it be Percocet, Oxycocet for dental pain, for some kind of a back injury, and you're legitimately prescribed it, you get it, you need it, but you only need it for a few days and you have leftovers. So we're really, really asking people to please be responsible and bring it in. Bring it into us, and we will dispose of it properly. So that way it doesn't get into hands of children, but also just anybody who might want to break into your home and steal your pills or find out that you had some and try and take it from you.
Well, yeah, there's that too. I mean, we all have a responsibility. We've all had the same thing. Keep your pills not away from children. Keep them in cabinets. You said the drug return program. Don't flush it.
That's right. No, we don't want it in the waterways, and we don't want it in the land.
Don't put it in the landfill.
That's right.
Right. So we all have responsibilities in that matter, right?
That's right. And so we see a large amount of prescription medication returned every year, and that's great. And then it's disposed of properly, and then no one's environment's not at harm, and neither is anybody. So.
Yeah, I know York Regional Police partners with pharmacists through the year in drop off your unused.
That's right.
Right, and I guess that's in many different locations throughout the region, yours included, right?
That's right, yeah.
So what else can we talk about with the safety of these
I guess
drugs?
basically my biggest concern is that people are responsible when they're taking and using narcotics. So basically they're using it for their own personal use. They're keeping it safe away from people and children, and they're knowing, I guess, what dose they're getting. So, when they talk about people experimenting with doses, I always cringe because I think that's crazy.
Yeah, just the concept of taking something you don't know, I can't grasp. But I guess, it's a different world maybe, right? Not everyone has the same understanding, but it is a scary thought that somebody would actually just say, hey, yeah, I'm not sure. Let me try it and see what effect it has. And this isn't a new problem. It just happens to be that the name is fentanyl, and it's extremely dangerous. I mean, we've had drug problems for ever.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, there's always been something. There's always been the abuse of whether it be prescriptions or street drugs or,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, like so obviously you get training, or pharmacists trained, and as these new issues come to light?
Yeah, we undergo all sorts of different training, basically just on how to recognize, how to help people with addictions problems, where to refer these people. So if you don't know who to ask, or if you don't want to approach, the pharmacist is always available. Most of us are open late, so.
Yeah, that's right. So you're always there for,
that's right. So
for the
come on
information,
in.
right?
Yeah, and we can.
Fantastic. Joanne, thank you so much for coming on the show. Folks, that wraps up this episode of Policing York Region. For more information on the show, rogerstv.com. For more information on York Regional Police, yrp.ca. It's been great having you. I look forward to seeing you again.